Hello, my name is Maria de Rubiera Morales, and today I will be presenting my video project about William Shakespeare and Hamlet. William Shakespeare was an English playwright, poet, and actor. He is widely considered the greatest writer in the English language and the world's foremost playwright. He is often called England's national poet and the Bard of Avon, or simply the Bard. William was born in Stratford-Avon in 1564. His life was very controversial, so much so that his true authorship of his classic works was discussed. As for his characteristics, his characters represented universal feelings. His works were based on regional European stories lacking in originality. He dies in 1660. He dies in 1616. His works were Romeo and Juliet, that was a tragedy, Macbeth, that was a tragedy too, A Midsummer Night's Dream, that is a comedy, The Merchant of Venice, that is a comedy too, Othello, there is a tragedy, and Hamlet, that is also a tragedy. Shakespeare's English, an exciting phenomenon occurred called the Great Vowel Shift, which changed the way we pronounce words. There was also a further increase in Latin and Greek words, which had an impact on the vocabulary of the language. The country and language were also influenced by one of the world's greatest playwrights, William Shakespeare. This era is when early modern English began, laying the foundation for the modern English we speak today. Early modern English is said to span the years 1500 to 1800. This period is called the Renaissance. The language of this era is much more closely related to our current modern English. Shakespeare's historical background. Shakespeare was the son of John Shakespeare, a councillor and successful glove-maker from Sidenfield in Warwickshire, and Mary Arden, the daughter of a wealthy land family. He was born in Stratford-upon-Avon, where he was baptized on April 26, 1564. His date of birth is unknown, but he is traditionally celebrated on April 23, St. George's Day. This day, which goes back to William Aldis and George Steevens, has proved attractive to biographers because Shakespeare died on the same date in 1616. He was the third of 8 children and the eldest surviving child. William Shakespeare War. The English Elizabethan era is one of the most fascinating periods in English story. It was a period that brought advances in politics, religion, exploration, medicine, astrology, science, sculpture, painting, superstition, and most importantly, the idols of the age. Sir Francis Drake, English privateer, explorer, slave trader, politician, and vice admiral. Sir Walter Raleigh, English sailor, privateer, writer, courtier, pirate, and politician who popularized tobacco in Europe. Mary, Queen of Scots. Queen of Scotland from December 14, 1542 to July 24, 1567. Sir Francis Walsingham, English politician, Chief Secretary to Queen Elizabeth I of England. William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe. He was an English playwright, poet, and translator of the Elizabethan period. John Dee, noted mathematician, astrologer, oculist, navigator, imperialist, and advisor to Queen Elizabeth I of England. And the last one, Lord Robert Dudley, first Earl of Leicester, was an English nobleperson and favourite of Queen Elizabeth I of England. Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth I was Queen of England and Ireland from 16 November 1558 until her death in 1603. Elizabeth was the last monarch of the House of Tudor and is sometimes referred to as the Virgin Queen. Elizabeth was the daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, his second wife, who was executed when Elizabeth was 2 years old. Anne's marriage to Henry was annulled, and Elizabeth was declared illegitimate for a time. Many of her relatives ruled before she could. Isabel was even imprisoned for a year on suspicion of supporting Protestant rebels. The Renaissance. The Renaissance was a period in European history that marked a transition from the Middle Ages to modernity, and occurred in the 15th and 16th centuries, characterized by an effort to revive and surpass the ideas and achievements of classical antiquity. It occurred after the crisis of the late Middle Ages and was associated with great social change. It was an European cultural and artistic movement based on the revival of the values of classical antiquity. Its origins was in the region of Italy, from where it spread to the rest of Europe. The genres of the Renaissance were paint, sculpture, literature, and music. An important value of the Renaissance was anthropocentrism, which consists of making the human being the reference center of social and cultural life. Historical background of the play Hamlet. The story of Hamlet came to Shakespeare via F. de Belforest Histories Tragics, and from a lost drama, which appeared on the scene in 1587 or 1589. There are some important differences between Belforest's narrative and Shakespeare's drama. In the Frenchman account, in the Frenchman narrative, Hamlet knows from the beginning how his father died, for which he feigned madness and magnificent justification. On the other hand, he does not die in the fulfillment of his revenge, and is capable of revenge at the right time. The literary device used in Hamlet. Metaphor. Metaphor is a direct comparison to show some similarity. The quote is, Hamlet, if it be noble in the mind to suffer the sling and arrows of outrageous fortune, or take up arms against a sea of anguish, and opposing ending them. The other literary device is simile. Simile is a comparison that is made using the words as or like. And the quote says, Hamlet, a little table, or those shoes were all, with which he followed the body of my poor father, like Niobe all tears. The other device is repetition. Repetition is defined as the repetition of word for emphasis. The quote says, I humbly thank you. Good, good, good. Or words, word, words. Allusion. Allusion is when reference is made to some idea, event, place, or something in the text. The quote says, my father's brother, but no more like my father, that I too Hercules. The other is irony. Irony is when the opposite of what you expect or say happens. An example will be when Laertes fight Hamlet. Laertes ends up being poisoned with the same poison that he used to poison Hamlet. The It's not a quote, but is a line from the story. Laertes won Hamlet in a fight. They change stocks. Hamlet wounds Laertes. Characters in order of appearance. Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark and the protagonist. Hamlet is the son of Queen Gertrude and the late King Hamlet, and he is nephew of the current King Claudius. Hamlet is melancholy, bitter, and cynical, filled with hatred for his uncle's intrigues and disgust for his mother's sexuality. Claudius, King of Denmark, Hamlet's uncle and antagonist of the play. Claudius is an ambitious and calculating politician, driven by his sexual appetite and lust for power. Gertrude, Queen of Denmark, mother of Hamlet, recently married to Claudius. Gertrude loves Hamlet deeply, but she is a shallow and weak woman, who seeks affection and status more urgently than moral rectitude or truth. Polonius, Claudius' court chamberlain and pompous and conniving old man. Polonius is the father of Laertes and Ophelia. Horatio, a close friend of Hamlet, who studied with the prince at the University of Wittenberg. Horatio is loyal and helpful to Hamlet throughout the play. Ophelia, daughter of Polonius, a beautiful young woman with whom Hamlet has been in love. Ophelia is a sweet and innocent young woman who obeys her father and her brother Laertes. Laertes, Polonius' son and Ophelia's brother, a young man who spent much of the play in France, passionate and quick in action. Fortinbras, the young priest of Norway whose father, the king, was murdered by Hamlet's father. Now Fortinbras wants to attack Denmark to avenge his father's honor. The ghost, the spectre of Hamlet's recently deceased father. The ghost, who claims to have been murdered by Claudius, asks Hamlet to avenge him. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, two slightly awkward courtiers, Hamlet's former friends from Wittenberg, Marcellus and Bernardo, the officer who first see the ghost walking the walls of Elsinore and summon oration to witness it. Marcellus is present when Hamlet first encounters the ghost. Reynaldo, Polonius' servant, who is sent to France by Polonius to control and spy on Laertes. The setting of Hamlet. The story of Hamlet is set in the late Middle Ages, 14th and 15th centuries, or 1300 or 1499, in and around mostly the royal palace in Elsinore, a city of then in Denmark. The main conflict. The main conflict is when Hamlet felt a, a responsibility to avenge his father's murder at the hands of his uncle Claudius. But Claudius is now king, and therefore well protected. In addition, Hamlet was torn between his doubts and whether he can trust the ghost and whether killing Claudius is the appropriate thing to do. Plot: Sequence of events. The first one. The King of Denmark has died and his wife Gertrude has married his brother Claudius. The king's son Hamlet has come home to Elsinore for his father's funeral. The second. Hamlet sees the ghost of his father. The ghost tells him that it was his brother Claudius, the new king, who killed him, and commands Hamlet to get revenge. Hamlet has been behaving strangely, and Claudius asks Hamlet's childhood friends, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, to find out why. A group of traveling actors visits the castle, and Hamlet asks them to perform a play about a man who murders a sleeping king to see how Claudius reacts. Hamlet tells his girlfriend Ophelia that he never loved her, and then asks Gertrude how she can be happy when her husband has only just died. The actors perform the story of the murder of a sleeping king, and Claudius storms out. This confirms Hamlet's belief that Claudius killed his father. Hamlet and his mother Gertrude argue about his behavior. During their argument, Hamlet accidentally kills Polonius, Ophelia's father. Hamlet will not tell anyone where Polonius' body is. Claudius sends him to England, but he does not arrive. Ophelia's brother Laertes comes home and finds Ophelia has gone mad with grief. She kills herself, and Claudius and Laertes plot to murder Hamlet. Hamlet agrees to fight Laertes. During the duel, Gertrude drinks poison, and both Hamlet and Laertes are fatally wounded. Hamlet kills Claudius before he dies. The themes. Death. The play begins with the death of Hamlet's father, and as the story goes on, increased deaths appear, such as Polonius, Ophelia, Gertrude. Revenge. Hamlet and Laertes have the same mission, to avenge the death of their respective parents. Neither will give up until both parents had their deserved justice. Corruption. An example will be the way Claudius murdered his own brother with poison to usurp his throne and have his power. This is an act of evil and corruption. Religion. Hamlet analyzed various things, including whether Claudius would go to heaven or hell when he died, when from Hamlet what Claudius deserved was hell. And that was all of my video project. Thank you